so excited to be with you, Michelle. This is fantastic. Thank you so much.
I'm so happy to have you back. So before we get started, we're going to have a juicy conversation today on key secrets to help successful women find love. And I know this is a topic that many of you will resonate with, because I know many of us out there, myself included, have had success in other areas of life, but have struggled at least for a period of time in our love lives. And I had my own long and winding journey to love, becoming a first-time bride at age 43. But believe me when I tell you that I know what that feels like when you feel like you're so frustrated and stuck in this area of life where other areas you feel like you're succeeding. So just a little bit about Dr. Diana before we get started. Psychologist Dr. Diana Kirschner was a recurring guest on the Today Show, appeared on Oprah, and starred in a PBS special on love based on her smash bestseller, Love in 90 Days. Her newest book is Find Your Soulmate Online in 6 Simple Steps. Dr. Diana has helped tens of thousands of singles to date terrific partners, deepen their relationships, and create lasting love that is just right for them. Her dating tips and relationship advice newsletter is available for free support at her website, lovein90days.com. Before we get started, Diana, I'd like for you to share with us, from your perspective, why you've chosen this particular topic to address with our audience today.
Well, I tell you, so many people have come to me and my coaching team who are in this predicament. And it's so odd, here they are, they're very successful. One woman was a vice president of a large corporation, incredibly successful. I mean, making all kinds of things happen. And yet she was completely heartbroken because she was in love with this guy who was, he was, very physically loving, wonderful and fun to be with, but he was not really up on her level intellectually, and not willing to commit himself. and this, so this dichotomy caused her so much heartbreak, and it was just so confusing because she knew what to do in work. She knew what to do. But here's this crazy kind of double bind that we get into in love relationships. And it can feel like a crazy double bind. And so we have had so many people come with this kind of problem. They feel like almost like there's something missing in a way. It's like they're missing something about how to create the kind of lasting love they feel they should be having based on who they really are. And so this is something that needs to be addressed, and it's something that can be very very clearly addressed if you just talk about a few key things to open up and pay attention to in your life when you're a successful woman. So that's where we came to this.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that feels challenging about this topic for successful women is we kind of have this idea in our minds that, well, I'm successful in all of these other areas of my life and I figured all that out. And why couldn't I figure this out on my own myself when it comes to my love life? I mean, I know for a fact that that's something that I thought frequently when I was having a very successful corporate career in corporate America, but I was hitting a brick wall when it came to my love life. I just couldn't figure it out why a smart, capable, successful woman like myself couldn't seem to get through that barrier.
Right? Yeah, with a big heart, who's loving and caring and has it all, basically has it all. Yeah, so it's just baffling. It's just absolutely baffling.
Yeah. So what do you think that is the most important thing that a successful woman can do to create that path to lasting love? Because, the thing is that most of these women, they still have that desire for that partnership, no matter how satisfying other aspects of their lives are, but they don't know where to really start or begin.
Yeah, well, see, the number one thing to do when you are in that position is to actually reprioritize love. What happens is that you get involved in your work, you get involved in your vision, it's manifesting, it's very exciting, it's very compelling. There's a lot of work to be done when you're successful. Success breeds more work, more time, more commitment, more emails, more, everything, more of everything. And so a lot of the women just kind of push the dating down to the bottom of the to-do list. They do it. They may go out. They may go on Tinder, right? But it's actually fallen down on the to-do list. If they really are honest with themselves, and it's how many hours are you spent working? How many hours a week are you spending working? People are very surprised when we have them add up the number of hours and look at it. It's just incredible, right? And then how much time are you spending actually interacting with guys? And when I say the bottom of the to-do list, I also include in that, I lump in with that, spending time with unsuitable partners because they happen to be there, right? Because you're exhausted and Harry calls you and he's not really the one, but, he's good for some things. Sometimes he's good for a roll of hay. Sometimes he's good for, debriefing or hanging out, but he's not the one, right? But because of the not prioritizing, you kind of fall in with him. And so that's just a waste of time. That's just another waste of time. So the thing is to assess that, really have an honest look at that, right? Because there are ways to find great guys. There are ways to find guys who are successful and smart like you and loving like you. There are. But it's like anything else. It doesn't just fall in your hand. You would never expect the position you're at right now, the success you're at right now to have fallen in your hand. You worked hard for it and you prioritize for it and it's manifesting. Likewise, having that healthy relationship, having that, having the ability to have a beautiful family, to have children and all that stuff. So that's what I would advise our viewers to do, is actually take a look at that.
Yeah, I'd like to echo just a little bit of what you said there, Diana, because that resonated with me so strongly. So one thing that I heard you say really, and I just want to emphasize this, is that if this is something you deeply desire in your life, you're going to need to prioritize it. It's going to have to come up from the very bottom of the list where we're kind of on default, just hoping something's going to happen. There's a book called Hope is Not a Strategy, and that might apply here. And then you have to have you have to create some time for, creating opportunities for yourself, for dating. And then there has to be that space. And what you said there when you talked about spending time with maybe the guys we might call Mr. Right now, instead of Mr. Right, I think this is a really big trap that I fell into, that I think a lot of women fall into because we're lonely. We desire that partnership and he's available. He's here. Sometimes it feels better than spending time alone. But I believe that nature abhors a vacuum. And if you've got that space filled with these Mr. Right Nows or a Mr. Right Now in one way or another, and even if he's fulfilling some of your temporary needs, you're not fully available. You don't really have that space open up to receive something better. And what I find is that a lot of women will get into this trap, myself included, of spending time with Mr. Right Now, and then there might be some emotional involvement or some physical involvement, and you become emotionally attached, even though you know he's not the right guy, and ultimately it's not where you want to end up. And then you've wasted months or potentially even years of your life in the wrong relationship, and it's ultimately going to end in disappointment. And you'll find yourself that much older, that much further down the path, and it really can erode your confidence and your self-esteem and your faith in that possibility for finding real love.
Absolutely. We had one woman come into our Love Mentor coaching program who had spent 10 years with an unsuitable guy. 10 years. They were having pretty good sex, so there was that physical satisfaction. He was not as bright as her. He was not as accomplished as her. But she wound up being hooked because when you have a physical relationship, the oxytocin is produced, which is the bonding hormone. So that bonding hormone is keeping you glued to Mr., as you say, Mr. Right Now. You're glued. You're glued. And when it does end, and it always does end because it's not the real deal, it's very upsetting because you're that much older, and it's a challenge in this culture. There's a great deal of sexism in terms of ageism. I'm sorry, ageism in terms of also sexism, but that's not our topic. Ageism in terms of what you're up against as you get older and older and older. You begin to feel like, oh my God, now I'm really over the hill. I just broke up with this guy, and I'm really over the hill. Now I can't really find anybody. And that's not true, by the way. That's not true. I'm just saying that there is this ageism, especially for women, especially in dating. And so then you have to deal with that. So it's very, very difficult. Now, I'm happy to report that woman who spent that 10 years, basically not prioritizing love correctly, who wasted that 10 years, turned everything around through some love mentor coaching, where she just totally developed what we call her diamond self-identity, which is a more feminine identity. And we can get into that, and it's how that works. But developing that, she then met this really fantastic guy who was a lawyer, was on her wavelength. They were just totally, there's nothing more sexy than being on each other's wavelengths with the quick repartee and all that stuff. And she is happily married to him. So I'm thrilled about that. So the other part of it, was in terms of, changing your life, is not simply change the priority, but also getting mentorship in terms of helping you in that area. Just like you got mentorship at work, you want to get mentorship in terms of your love life. You want to talk to people who are living the dream that you want. It's very similar. In work, when you want something, you go to somebody who has it, and you ask them to mentor you. That's straightforward. They know the road, and they have what you want. It's very similar in terms of relationships, because relationships are even more complicated than work. So you have to go to a mentor. You have to get somebody to help you. Sometimes you can find somebody in your network who has what you want, and who can be a mentor to you. That can be very, very helpful. Or you can get a professional mentor or coach. And that really, it shows your commitment. It shows that you're reprioritizing, and you're going to turn this around starting right now. Right now.
Yeah, and this is a perfect time for it at the beginning of the year. If you've gone through the holiday season and felt a little disappointed or sad that another year has gone by and you're not with the love of your life, this is a perfect opportunity for a new beginning. It's a new time for hope. And I think, I had to get mentoring. I had to get support in order to move forward in this area of my life. And obviously I believe strongly in that. And I just think it's a shortcut. If you really want this and you don't want to spend years and years and years and years of struggle figuring it out, then take the shortcut path and get some support. So I echo that, Diana. And I want to ask you something. I know this is a perception for many successful single women. There's a perception that as a successful woman, we intimidate guys, or that guys want to marry down so that they're not, you're not outshining him, so to speak. What do you think about that perception, and what would you say to the women out there that might be thinking that?
Okay, that has to be checked at the door. That attitude has to be checked at the door. There's very clear research about this. Very clear, very clear. And what the research shows is the principle of homophily. And what that means is that men tend to want to marry women on their own level, in their own socioeconomic class, and also their own educational class, that they tend to marry similar women who are on a similar level. That's really the truth. And these are studies that have been replicated all over the place. I mean, not just in America. So that's the real truth. But you know what it is that we can get in our minds about, what we start thinking of all the things that are barriers in terms of really getting what we truly want. What? Oh no, I'm too old now. Oh no, I'm too intimidating now. I'm too much for a man now. I have to keep my mouth shut. I do, too. I don't know. He's thinking of me as a buddy. And it's that has to be combated. That seizing of obstacles that we put in our own way that just stop us from shining, stop us from being happy, stop us from being our real selves, and your real self is irresistible. And I mean, everyone's real self is irresistible. Being real makes you irresistible. That's the truth. Being real, just playing full out in the moment, being in the joys of the moment, enjoying the moment, and bringing fun and playfulness and happiness to yourself, whatever that means, right? That's all irresistible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think this also brings up a really important piece, and that is that this does not mean if you're a successful woman, whatever that means to you in terms of successful, because I think there's different definitions of successful, but this doesn't mean you have to dim your light or be less than or dumb yourself down. In fact, what I think you're saying, Diana, and I agree with this, is if you are real and authentic and let your beautiful light shine brightly in the world, then that's going to be irresistible to the right man.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But what else?
Including how bright you are, including how, bright in terms of thoughtful and quick, and, that it's all of a package. It's all the package, all the joy of being who you really are, all those joys, including your great brain.
Right. Among other assets.
Among other assets.
So besides this idea, this perhaps false idea that we've identified that men prefer to marry down or that they're not attracted to successful women, what other mistakes or beliefs do you see successful women making out there that, create obstacles on this path?
Well, they tend to, of course, they're problem solvers, and they tend to sometimes be too much of a problem solver when it comes to dating a guy, right? Mm-hmm. And they're very bright, so they do know how to solve problems. But, when you're first dating someone, this is a time to let them solve your problems, because that's something that men really need to do. The thing that makes them feel great is being able to solve a woman's problems, to be there, in terms of protecting her, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that's a very old archetypal dance that's kind of in the genes. It's kind of a biologically based dance. There's nothing wrong with it. You don't just stay rigidly in that position, because if you're with the right guy, you'll wind up in a beautiful dance where you'll be, one will be problem solving and the other one will be problem solving, and you'll just, when you're with a really great person and in with your soulmate love, it's a very fluid, flexible, wonderful thing. But in the very beginning, it's great to just lay back a little bit and let the man be proactive.
Mm-hmm.
Let the man enjoy himself taking care of you. Let the man enjoy himself, romancing you. Mm-hmm. And you just allowing it to come in and just really appreciating it. That's fun. That's really, really, really fun. And that's where the sensual juices get going. That's where the sexual juices will really, really get going. The flirtations get going,
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I think you're right, especially in those early stages of dating, this can be really critical, because if we as women do some of the things that might work really well for us in our professional lives, where we're jumping in and problem solving and taking things to the next level and leading out and getting the next result, it can take away a man's motivation, and it can also not create that space or that atmosphere for him to step into a more romantic role where he's leading and guiding you with the dance. It's like your analogy of a dance. Both people can't lead at the same time, or there's going to be problems. You're going to be stepping all over each other's feet. And if you are a woman, a strong, successful, smart woman, and you want to be in a relationship with a man that you respect, admire, he's likely going to be a masculine man, you have to give him that opportunity to lead the dance for a while and to be willing to gracefully follow that lead if you're attracted to him and want to get to know him better. And then I also think a piece of this, Diana, is I think as women, we tend to be very heart-centered. Even those of us that are successful, we tend to be givers, and we're not always as good at receiving, right? And so receiving the gifts that a man has to offer, graciously receiving and allowing him to provide something for you that is going to be valuable is enough for you to give back to him in the early stages. And I think we miss that nuance so often.
Thank you so much, Michelle. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yes, 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 yes. I couldn't agree with you more. Men, the way they relate is entirely different. There have been studies of communication. The way they relate is so different than the way women relate to each other. Man relates about, he wants to achieve. He wants to do things. He wants to have this feeling that he's accomplished something, and it makes him feel like a winner. And especially in relation to a woman, he wants to know that he can please her. He can make her happy.
Right.
That makes him feel like a man. That makes him feel good. Her smile is its own reward. Her nodding is its own reward. Her saying thank you is its own reward. It's interesting. Think about Amal Clooney. Amal Clooney is extremely successful, right? The woman who's married to George Clooney.
Right.
And there was one picture when she first got together with George that was fascinating. And in this picture, he's holding her, right? And she's completely laying back, totally relaxed. Totally relaxed. And with this look of pure joy.
I love that.
He's literally holding her up in his arms. And she's just laying there in his arms, just radiantly happy and totally passive. Radiantly happy and totally passive. And he's upright and he's holding her up literally physically, and he's like so proud of himself. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that kind of says it all.
Yeah, that's really powerful imagery. I'm really glad that you shared that. It makes me want to go find that picture.
I know. I have to remember where that was. It may have been in a People magazine or something when they first got married, and because it was emblazoned in my mind. I was like, wow, you know. Now that's another situation. Look who he chose. He chose an extremely successful woman,
Right.
and he was a very wanted, bachelor.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
And yeah, and it strikes me as you talked about that, her just relaxed and just, completely being in that moment and him holding her up. The power that we don't always recognize that we have as women is that when we allow a man to feel his masculine side and that masculine energy, that is part of what helps a man fall in love and see you as a romantic partner rather than a friend or rather than, like a business associate. And
Right.
I think that's just really lovely imagery. It kind of gave me the goosebumps to think of that because I just think you painted such a beautiful visual picture there of what we're talking about.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, Joanna, here's a big question that lots of women have, and particularly successful women, and that is, the big question about exactly how, where, when can I ever meet a great guy? Where can I meet these great guys? So many women just feel like, I don't even have any idea where to start. I don't even meet anybody that I'm interested in, let alone get up to bat to date.
Yeah, well, there's something that we call mentastic activities. Mentastic. And if you're a successful woman, you want to go to mentastic activities that have successful men at them. So what does that mean? That means there's charity functions, right? There's different kinds of sporting events where you're like the box seats,
Mm-hmm.
where they have food and they have other people there, and you can go to conferences that have very bright men there. For example, there's a conference called the Singularity Conference. The Singularity Conference is held twice a year, and it's basically a bunch of guys who are literally some of the brightest guys in the whole world, who are at the cutting edge of artificial intelligence, of science, of every field. And then there's a whole bunch of men who are venture capitalists who are looking at their work and their presentations to think if they can invest or work together with them. It's about 95% men.
The ratio is good.
A really great mentastic activity has lots of men in it, right? It's not a singles event. No, we don't want to go to singles events. It's just too competitive and it's a weird vibe. But a mentastic event like the Singularity Conference is amazing. It's just chock full of men of all ages, from young geeks to older guys who are venture capitalists. Now, I happen to go to that, not because I'm looking for a guy, but because I happen to be very interested in that. That's one of my passions. And you would not believe the amount of guys that I actually meet. Now, the thing about it is that to choose a mentastic activity, it should be something you really enjoy so that you're in your joy. Like we talked about before, that irresistible, natural happiness, that's your natural charisma. So it should be something that you love to do, that you really love to do. I mean, we've had women take dancing class where they met guys, it's got to be something that you really love to do. Usually, the men who are more successful, like more challenging kinds of events, like training for triathlons or that kind of thing. If you're an athlete, and that's your love, you could go into something where there's lots of guys also doing that training. the other part about these kind of fantastic activities is that you automatically have a common interest. Mm-hmm. You know, and a way to share time that you're both really, really enjoying, right? Mm-hmm. So you want to think of what are the things I love and which ones are likely to have successful, interesting guys in them. And you know, and I say success, I don't mean just guys who have money. I mean, I'm talking about guys who have it all, basically. You know, they have some confidence, they have a degree of creativity, and they can envision and go for things in their life. And they're people who also have, a big heart and are ready for a relationship. So you want to meet a guy who's successful in all ways. And that stereotype that just because somebody is successful, a guy is successful means he's shallow. That's not necessarily true at all. It's just as easy to love a guy who's successful, an investment banker, as it is to love, you know, somebody who's, you know, out of work. It really is.
Well, yeah, and you want to share your life with someone that is going to be interesting. If you're partnering with someone for life or for a marriage, you want to share your life with someone who's going to be a joy to you, and you're going to be a joy to him, and you have some common interests. And I believe especially for successful women, you also need to be with someone that you can respect. And I think part of that is respecting who he is as a person, and you're more likely to meet some of these kinds of men and these kinds of events. I know for myself as a single woman, one of the things that I did along these lines is that I would look for conferences or events, or I worked for a while in the IT industry. And so I would go to a lot of these IT events where they would have, you know, speakers come in, you know, they might have had Steve Jobs back in the day or something like that. And I would go to these, you know, very nice events and dinners and things like that. And the ratio was very good. There were women there, but there were a lot more men there. And I met a lot of really interesting men there. And it was something, you know, it was an opportunity for me to expand and learn more about something that I had some interest in as well. Right. So I think sometimes we get so much into a routine, though, that we forget there are other things to explore outside of what we might have already tried, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That's right. We get into an autopilot kind of thing. We're always doing the same things. We're with the same girlfriends. We're going to the same Starbucks, you know, going out to dinner at the same restaurants. And it's a very circumscribed life that we live, you know. Especially, you know, if you're successful, it means that you're tired, you've already worked so hard, you know, it's hard to break out of that kind of autopilot downtime. It's the downtime. Oh, you know, I want to go get a drink, or, you know, at my favorite place with my girlfriend, blah, blah, blah. But if you are reprioritizing love and you understand that you want someone who is a match for you in all ways, then you want to really, really take some time to look at this kind of thing and say, well, where am I going to go to meet the kind of guys that I really would enjoy, really, really honestly would enjoy talking to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think at the essence of this is kind of the core of what we're talking about here. If you are out there in your joy, you're living passionately, you're letting your light shine fully, you're being real and authentic. If you are out there in enough right places where you can see quality men and be seen by quality men, ultimately you're going to find one. You're going to find partnership. And that I just think is kind of the core essence of what we're talking about here. But I think sometimes in the midst of all of this, we forget what power we have in terms of our own destiny. And it can be easy to just, like you said, we're tired, we're working hard. And so we kind of just put this piece on autopilot and hope for the best. And it doesn't always work out so well. It's like winning the lottery, your chances of winning the lottery that way, right? And, just by the way, that's not your best retirement plan, right? Another free financial tip in the midst.
No, it's so true. But see, now that's where coaching comes in. I had a love mentor coach. If I hadn't had a love mentor coach, I would not be happily married. Zero chance. Zero chance. I'm telling you personally.
Yeah. Same.
I had a coach who was, telling me this, break that pattern, break this pattern, do this, and you'll find something brand new that you can't even imagine. That's actually better than what you ever imagined. That's the honest truth. And that's what happened to me, is that I had my own ceiling barriers to what might be possible. And my coach was a man, and he was like, no, you could really go beyond that. And that's what has happened, So I'm very, very grateful that I had that experience, and I'm able to just go beyond my own blinders, beyond my own ceiling barriers,
Mm-hmm.
And that's something I do recommend.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've been talking about some of the, shall I say, tactical or practical ideas around love and some of the things that a woman can do. But obviously part of this is based on what's going on the inside. I believe we do attract love from the inside out. And so along with, that doesn't mean you have to be perfect, otherwise none of us would ever have love. But along with doing some of the things we've been talking about here, it is really important for a woman to be really grounded in her own value and her self-esteem, and to be centered in her own self-love. And I know, Diana, you have a lot of really juicy work around this, and wonder if you could share a little bit about that.
Well, our core work is called the Diamond Self process, and it's just so amazing, really, really amazing, where it's one of the core exercises is you go in and remember a time where you felt juicy, you felt really good, you felt really attractive, you felt, you had it going on, even if that was when you were an adolescent or when you first fell in love. And you really kind of feel into that. You put yourself in some scenes where you're looking through your own eyes, and it's really fantastic. And then you give yourself a little nickname, like, Vivacious Vixen, Delicious Delilah, that's a very feminine nickname. And it's really, really, really fun to do. And you remember that part of yourself that is, full of natural charisma, is, darling and quirky and funny and feminine and sensual. We all have it. We all have that. And it's just a matter of kind of recalibrating your brain and remembering that identity, right? And so you can live into it and play with that more, when women do that, really fun things happen. Really, really amazing fun things happen. But you have to be willing to be that, loving to yourself, to go in there, to love yourself up, to give yourself a loving nickname, a positive nickname. You have to be loving. You have to be willing to be towards yourself the way you want someone in the outside world to be towards you, to give yourself the love first.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's really profound, and I think it's a really powerful concept that you teach here. Even if you're not necessarily feeling it, you can, to some extent, fake it until you make it. So what I mean by that is if you start treating yourself and acting as that diamond self, you'll gain momentum in that direction. You can begin to dress a little bit more femininely or buy a piece of jewelry. I know you've recommended this, Diana, in some of our other conversations, that represents that diamond self persona that you're taking on. And you can start magnifying that. And it's, again, a way of shining your light beautifully into the world so that you can be seen by the right person.
Yeah.
I think it's a really powerful concept and a way to get started, even if you're not necessarily feeling that strongly. Maybe you've been beat up a little bit, or you're feeling a little older, or you gained a few pounds, or whatever the case may be. That essence of who you are, that divine feminine essence, is still in there, and it can still shine brightly no matter what your age, your weight, what you've gone through, what mistakes you feel like you've made. It's still there, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And actually, once you let it go, it'll be even better. It'll be even better because you have all the wisdom that you've accumulated all these years, and there's a certain way of, as you allow this diamond self to materialize and be there, it actually marries that maturity, marries that part of you that knows, that really knows at this point what is what in life.
Right.
That's been around the block. So you wind up with an absolutely irresistible identity. It's not just a little vivacious vixen from when she was 15, but it's the vivacious vixen who is in her 60s, who's in her 50s, who's in her 40s.
Right.
And so it's just amazing. I mean, for a time I had on as my wallpaper on my computer, I had one of our clients who was in her 60s who was riding bareback on a stallion.
I love that.
And she was dressed in her diamond self outfit, was flowing back, right? It was just like a goddess, an absolute goddess, and if that wasn't everything that, we talk about, more beautiful than she was in her teens, more, just irresistible. Ageless, absolutely ageless.
Yeah.
So no matter what your age, you can be better. You can be better than you've ever been.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a beautiful imagery as well. I appreciate you sharing that. So I want to just touch on this because I know that for many of the women that are listening, they may have been through difficult or painful relationships, breakups, divorces, whatever, and maybe feeling like they're trying to overcome or heal from heartbreak. And I know that you have some specific steps and suggestions along these lines on how a woman can move through that heartbreak so that she can be ready and open to receiving love again.
Well, number one, really do not isolate. Do not stay on the couch crying with the Ben and Jerry's. Do not do that. Go to your friends, cry, call your friends, let them comfort you. Studies show that natural painkillers in the brain are released when you're talking to a loving person and venting your pain. It'll make you feel better if you go out and interact with people. So no isolating. Number two, meditation or prayer can really be very, very helpful, even though you don't feel like it, or you may not be on the kindest terms vis-a-vis God or any higher power because you're pissed off.
Right. I've been there where I had a few suggestions for him. He doesn't listen to me that well when I get
So yeah, you may not be on very good terms, but still meditation and some prayer, having some spiritual insight can be very helpful to you.
Mm-hmm. It can be very, very healing. Yes.
Yeah. And then, fill your calendar with different activities. Don't let yourself have any downtime, really. Not too much. You can have a little bit, but it's better to fill your calendar. Better to fill up your calendar. Mm-hmm. Because novel things happen when you least expect it. You drag yourself to the gym and all of a sudden the guy next to you is like saying, hello.
Yeah, that's right.
And here you're feeling like you're looking ratty, but he's like, hello, what's your name?
Oh. Yeah, I appreciate those suggestions for overcoming heartbreak because you can get stuck there. And I just want to say one little piece about Ben and Jerry. You know, this is a joke of mine. Back when I was single, you know, sometimes I would spend lonely Friday nights in front of the TV watching some sad movie or some romantic, chick flick, Hugh Grant movie or whatever, and eating Ben and Jerry. And I'll tell you, those boys are hard to shake. I've still got Ben on one hip and Jerry on the other. So not only are they not the best long-term companions, but they're really hard boys to shake. I still have Ben and Jerry right here. So don't cozy up too often with.
Oh my God.
We have to laugh about things a little bit. Sometimes laughing and a sense of humor also helps you get through all of this. I think having that lightness and that fun and not taking this whole process so seriously and having it be so heavy can also just be like having a huge weight lifted off of our shoulders. So where you can laugh, because some of this stuff, even some of the most horrendous dating experiences I ever had, now I can look back on and they make the most hilarious. Right?
I know. Truth is stranger than fiction.
Well, this is not the truth. So this is so much fun, Diana. I feel like I could talk to you all day. I'm going to let Diana give us kind of a parting thought or last piece of wisdom or a little bit of a pep talk. But before we do that, Diana, I just want to thank you once again for being here with me. You're always just a delight. I love our conversations. I think you're amazing and a beautiful source of love and light in the world. And I feel honored to have been blessed to be in paths that have crossed over these last 4 years. So thank you from the bottom of my heart for that.
Oh, thank you so much. And I feel the same way about you, Michelle. Thank you so, so much.
You're welcome. So I'll let you leave us with whatever last parting thought you'd like to share.
Okay. Well, my last thought is don't quit before the miracle.
I love that.
The miracle is right there.
Mm-hmm.
And it happens just like that.
Yeah, it does happen just like that. And there's always possibility beyond what we can see in the moment.
Isn't that the truth?
Yeah. And I know I've experienced miracles in my life that I never thought would come, that I never thought would happen. And meeting and marrying my amazing husband has been one of those. So, so yeah, I echo that, and I really appreciate that as a closing thought. So if this is your year for love, then invest in yourself and do everything that you can to move yourself forward in this area of your life. Diana and I are holding that vision for you. We believe and know that there are miracles possible and that you can have the kind of love that you most deeply desire if you want that. So we thank you for being here. We honor you for being here, because those of you that are here obviously care enough about this, that you're spending your time and you're investing in learning more to help move yourself forward towards having the relationship of your dreams. So we congratulate you and thank you for being here and hope to see you more. Bye-bye for now.
Lots of love.
Lots of love.